So we've just finished our meeting with Vida Urbana, and tonight we have been thinking about heart change as Jesus talks to the crowd of people that were gathered on the Sermon on the Mount. We call it the Sermon on the Mount, the mountainside where he sat down and taught them about what his kingdom was really all about and what it meant to follow him. And what we've been thinking about is the way that once he was telling people the radical values that his kingdom had in terms of real humility and being thirsty for righteousness and willing to be persecuted and being humble before God, all of these things, as he explained all of these things, people were thinking, this kingdom sounds really interesting. You know, he's talking about being salt and light, having an impact on your generation. But then they want to know, how does this compare with the old stuff? Like, do we get rid of that now? And he says, no, you don't. Actually, what you do is you take it more seriously than you ever have before. You see, in a way, people of that time did take it seriously because people had worked out that there were 613 different laws, and then some of them had been subdivided down. So, for example, in terms of not working on the Sabbath, they'd figured out that there was 39 different forms of work, and they would make these huge lists of rules. And the strange thing was that actually people would take those rules and pride themselves on being good because they were keeping all these laws, when their hearts would not necessarily be right with God at all. They were kind of just doing it all externally, which is often the way traditional religion can be. It's all about the externals. But what God really wants, and what Jesus was teaching people, was he wants heart change. And so he gives this whole range of examples. He talks about how people say, oh, you know, don't murder, and they think, yeah, I'm good on that, I've not murdered anybody. He says, yeah, but have you really been angry to the point when you wish somebody just wasn't there? He says, what's the difference? It's the seeds of the same thing. You might say, oh, I haven't committed adultery, but he says, but have you really wanted to and thought it in your heart when you've seen somebody and thought, let the mind play out? He's saying, what's the difference? It's the seeds of it. He talks about attitudes of revenge and people playing with vows and swearing on this, that and the other, which kind of meant that they could be more economical with the truth. And Jesus says, stop messing about, just say yes or no, be honest, be straightforward. All these different things, he's basically saying, what you really need is not just a tick list of things that you've done externally. What you need is to have heart change so that your desires have changed, so that what you want is different. And that is real radical kingdom living. Not just to say, what's the list of rules? What's the kind of minimum that I need to do to manage? Let me look at this and then I'll be okay. He's saying, no, don't do that. What you need to do is give yourself entirely, open your heart up to God to the extent that you can say, God, come in and work on my heart and change me and change my attitudes, my desires, so that it's not just about whether I've done this or that externally, but actually what my deepest desires and motivations are. And that really is, in that sense, what Jesus called greater righteousness than the Pharisees had known before and the other religious leaders. It was taking God's ways more seriously than anybody had done before. And so the challenge is for us, if we're going to be kingdom people, if we're going to be the kind of people who are like salt and light and who have an impact in our generation, are we going to open ourselves up to God in this kind of way and say, God, come and do what you want in us and work through us and get right in there and make a difference in our lives? Because that's what the call is. That's what Jesus was calling his followers to do then and now as well.